So our first topic was so on the Joe Rogan podcast we had the two guys from Social Dilemma actually join the podcast. Social Dilemma was basically talking about how the big social media giants, you know, your Facebook, Twitters, YouTube, how they've been using the algorithm, or how the algorithm is being used against Western civilizations, democracies, and how China and Russia have actively gone out of their way to use social media as a form of warfare.
It's a weapon.
It's a weapon.
Did you get to listen to the podcast?
Yes.
Clips.
I listened to the whole thing. Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
you
not
did?
gonna lie, yeah.
Oh, nice.
I know the other guy from. I think I was listening to him on some other podcast. I think it was like
did, yeah.
Lex Friedman. He did Lex Friedman's podcast.
Oh, he did.
Yeah, and he was pretty sick. So yeah, just listening to him was always great. Apart from the whole Tristan. Yo, my G is Tristan. Yeah.
Tristan.
Who was calling him Tristan?
Jerry.
Oh, really? Oh.
But yeah, so what they were discussing was, I think what the reason we're kind of talking about it, because it goes quite nicely into what's happening with the Kyle Rittenhouse case that recently when they found him not guilty of the 3 people who shot, 2 of them which he killed, 1 survived. And the reason I'm kind of discussing this is how polarized our communities and democracies and just seem to be. Everything seems very on the extreme side. And what they were discussing was what we already kind of knew from Social Dilemma of, you know, how they're using the algorithms to kind of polarize us more, how to put us from once against each other as much as they can. But during this podcast, in the last couple of years, these guys have stepped up the game. Bears. China have actively gone and even said it, that their tactic, instead of actually directly attacking people, us like the traditional war, you know, between the US or the UK, they've decided that their tactic is not going to be like the Cold War, in which way where they used to do, you know, espionage, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But in this case, they're using social media to cause infighting. This is their tactic. Infighting is their tactic.
And beta males.
And a beta males. What do you mean by beta males?
So do you remember we spoke about on a couple of podcasts ago, we spoke about how China are enforcing preventing people from playing video games, for example,
and simping,
and shit
That
like
is
that.
a very good point that you said. Yeah,
And obviously, watching the podcast, what's it called, Tristan did point out that the CCP, what's it called? They're trying to promote you know, education and like, you know, less gaming, and less simping, all that stuff. And even
so just before we go into that, actually, because let's first say what the problem is, and then we'll say the solution, which you're talking about, is the solution China has gone. The route of solution they went with.
That's what they did.
Yeah, exactly. And then we're good. First, let's say that what they've been kind of doing. So, firstly, when it comes to the tech companies, China knows that the government, the US government, the UK government are medieval organizations, essentially, because they haven't got the time or the ability to move and regulate these industries, because those industries are moving so fast. By the time they're like 3-4 steps ahead in these industries, where the algorithms are so far ahead, the government has barely even appraised what the issue is. They don't know what the issue is yet. They haven't even looked at it. They don't even understand what the issues is.
100%.
So China is directly using that as a form of pushing these agendas out, because they know by the time that the US or the UK get to it, they would have done enough damage. Already.
Very clever.
So, for example, one thing they mentioned on the podcast was, did you know that the top 15 Christian American groups are entirely troll farms? Now, let me explain what troll farms are. These guys have now, their technology is so high, are so heightened, they're able to use AI to create accounts, essentially bots, to create arguments on social media platforms, for example on Facebook. And you can tell this AI bot, I want an argument, for example, for COVID, using for COVID vaccinations, using statistical research. But you put so much research that the people who actually are verifying what you're saying cannot do that. It will take a team of statisticians to actually verify what you're saying.
Okay.
But because you've backed up your sources, when people see, oh, these guys linked some sources, people are going to believe, then he's telling the truth type of thing. So the bots are so sophisticated that they can literally put this stuff out, these conversations, and then what happens is you see a bot interacting with a real person. They're replying with good arguments, and it's crazy. And then what they showed was an example Reddit thread in which they said, this is a GP, these are all just bots.
Right, okay.
And you cannot tell if it's a bot or not. And that's what the Turing test is. You cannot tell whether you're interacting with a bot or a human being. And now, this is what you call a troll farm. Now, the top 15 Facebook groups for Christianity in the US are all troll farms. That is 134 million people being influenced.
Really? That's
exactly.
number.
Exactly.
That's fucking deep.
Now, of those 134 million, they said nearly 85% of those people aren't even subscribed to those groups because they showed an interest in Christianity, and those people, those groups invited them. So imagine if you get invited to a Christianity group, you see their content.
Okay.
Without you accepting it.
Oh, really?
Imagine.
That's how Facebook works.
That's how Facebook works.
Okay.
So that they drive engagement.
Yeah, it's pulls you
mental,
in.
innit?
It is crazy. So now imagine Facebook, Twitter, and all these guys, their main aim is to drive engagement. Their biggest, they say, their biggest competitor is sleep. That's their biggest competitor is sleep. They are trying to get your attention so fucking much. So much so that teenagers nowadays have extremely small attention spans, far smaller than 10 years ago, far smaller than 20 years ago, because they've been getting the likes, the infinite scroll. This has been dopamine effects the entire time.
Yeah, it's a drug. It's a drug.
When you're literally hit with these dopamine effects 24/7, what happens? We know when you're doing work in school, there's no dopamine effect being given to you. So you're like withdrawal systems. You can't be fucking focusing on this shit because nobody gave you fucking like for this.
Yeah, yes.
So it's gotten ridiculous.
Yeah.
And
so China's made an approach towards it versus how the
so you explain
the West versus the West and how they approach it. I suppose China's like, okay, cool, we have so much control over our social media, of our people in general. We can just prevent, I guess, what we think might happen if they engage with the technology the way that the West is engaging with it, where, like I said, simps, people watching Twitch streams of just girls on the, bathtubs and shit like that. Yeah. And it's just a bunch of kids basically using their parents' money, and they become weak men. Right. So China's like, no, let's not make that happen. Mm-hmm. It's funny, Joe Rogan was like, yeah, praising China, yeah, well done, that's very smart.
No, and to be honest,
I praised him.
I praised it. Yeah. But you saw what I was telling you about the TikTok, what they done with the TikTok. They've gone out and they've actually now, if you on TikTok, if you scroll 5 times the Chinese TikTok, remember all their social media they own. There is no Facebook, there's no Twitter, there's no YouTube. So the same tactics that they're using against us, we cannot use against them because they have direct control over all their social medias. So you scroll 5 times on TikTok, it puts the timer and makes you wait. Says, do you want to go do something else?
Yeah.
It's good. It stops it from being addictive.
Kids are only
break, find something else to do.
Exactly, and they're only allowed to use it for specific periods of time. They're doing this on purpose. The games thing, as you were mentioning, on purpose. They know that this is causing issues for kids down the line. So what they're trying to do is they're building a generation of basically super compared to us, because our kids are literally getting worse and worse and worse due to the social. They get infected more and more negatively. Huge issues with their mental health now. Huge issues. So slowly and slowly our generations are becoming worse off, where theirs are being protected.
It's smart. I don't want to live under that. No, you wouldn't and be limited to what I can do, but at the same time it will benefit them as a country so much.
We don't know. We might.
I think it will.
I think there
might be some unintended consequences.
There's a reason they're kind of doing it.
I'm not allowed to play games and you're a murderer.
hey, you never know.
To be honest, Masu's got a point there. We don't know exactly. We'll see what happens in the future. You have a point there. We'll see what happens in the future. But from where we're sitting now, I reckon that if I had to put my bets down, I know where I'll put my bets.
I don't know, man. Imagine you were playing 12 hours of video games, you were trying to become a League of Legends professional player, and then they were like, how about no? And then next thing you know, 12 hours you were doing all day, every day. That was you playing games, and now you're allowed 40 minutes.
Yeah. You'd be pissed, but now you have 12 hours to do something useful.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't. People don't just like, okay, I guess I have to do something useful now.
What if you got nothing else to do?
They go, fuck this. Fuck the government! I'm gonna explode!
But do the Chinese kids do that? I don't see it.
Nah, they'll get licked off.
They'll get licked off.
No, you don't see it, but yeah, there's always protests and bad beef in China.
But punishments. But their credit score, their life. What's it?
The social credit score. Exactly.
Credit score. Peak out here, man.
So you can see what China is doing is they're ensuring that there's polarization in our countries. So now,
and Russia as well, of course.
Yeah, and Russia's been doing the same, and we're extremely polarized. And now we've become a point where we are just groups. You pick your side no matter what an issue is, and that's it. You stick to your fucking side. And we've been seeing that in for example,
the Rittenhouse thing.
In the Rittenhouse thing. Yeah. But before we just get into the Rittenhouse, I want to show you. Imagine this, yeah. You know what I found out?
What's up?
Fam, how is they doing this? So now, because they've all been racing for your attention, the social media giants. Okay. They've all been racing for your attention so much so. Like,
got him.
They're trying to get you on there 24/7. Guess what they're doing now on TikTok?
What?
On the no filter section, they're actually putting a beautification filter.
Huh?
So you take a picture on TikTok,
and you say
you
no
look
filter.
Better. And you say no filter, and you look better. They actually put a filter. You don't know. They put a 2% filter, so you look better.
Bro,
and now Instagram are thinking, oh, these guys, everyone's going to TikTok to take pictures now. 5%. 5% filter.
Yeah. So now they're going to increase the filter slightly.
A little bit. Yeah. It's a race. Soon, there is no filter. Everyone looking buff. Everyone looking buff on there.
Nah, there's probably going to be a threshold, like a little limit.
No, because everyone's going to do it until someone's like, this is a bit too fake. Then everyone, they'll optimize it. But it's just like, come on, it's becoming ridiculous.
But to be fair, when I first, like, as a teenager, when I first saw social media, I was very shook. I was like, oh, no, this is all going to be fake shit, crazy shit. It's going to fuck up your mind. So I never really jumped on it. And then now, as people were getting on it, they was taking pictures, of regular stuff like the nature. I don't know, maybe you and your friends were taking pictures of leaves and stones and shit.
Okay.
Next thing you know, Instagram became all just Tatiana. And then TikTok, same thing. It first became just dancing, innocent kids. Next thing you know, it's OnlyFans.
Of course.
It's because you don't get likes for leaves and stones, bro. You get likes for bums and tits. So much.
Let me see the eyes.
and imagine, I've got a cousin who's like really young, and her mum found her on TikTok twerking at like age 12. 12. You know why she's doing it?
Cuties.
Because everything else that she posted, she didn't get no likes or no nothing.
Yeah.
But the minute she stepped up her game, what happened? Likes came in, comments started going, oh, you look amazing.
It's actually true, fam. This is a mandem. It's actually the mandem that fucking up the game.
Yeah. It's the pedos. There's pedos in the game. There's pedos in the game. That's the problem.
Oh, but that's the thing is,
pedos is probably the best place you can go on TikTok.
Yeah, TikTok. Hands down, bro.
Hands down. You don't even need to do anything illegal anymore.
What's the solution though to all of this? Because there's loads of like negative consequences of using social media and the way it's being used and optimized for.
That's a very good question, because that's what I wanted to discuss. Because now what China did is what it can do. China's able to take away civil liberties whenever it wants.
Right.
It can tell you to do things and force you to do things whenever it wants. Their solution is poor, but it's a solution. However, we can't do this. In the West, if they try to implement any of these solutions, uproar.
Yeah, well, no, there are some solutions. There are, like some market forces. Like, for example, there are like those features that are inside, some sort of apps that says, hey, by the way,
that no one uses because they know no one's gonna use it, and
they do it to look good.
But no one uses it. And what do they do? They use what's the A/B testing? I know. They use that to where A/B testing is basically they'll.
Yeah, you just check
you have two versions.
Then check B.
Yeah, you have two versions of the app. You send some users here, and then what they do is they're basically looking, how well can I hide this feature? How well can I hide this feature? Stick it in some setting that's bare far and make it kind of dead to use as well.
Yeah, to be honest, I haven't bumped into anyone in a while.
Like there's parental controls, isn't there? That I know some.
To be honest, the parents,
you have to be very literate in this stuff to understand that it's causing issues to your kid.
Bro,
and what happens in school?
That's probably the biggest thing, Most parents just don't know what the fuck they're doing.
They just don't know. They just
hand the iPad to the kid. And that's it.
And why are you giving the kid the iPad at age 8? Because Timmy in his class got it at 7.
Bro, I swear to God, I saw this kid walking down the street. I was thinking, okay, cool. This kid's got some massive bag. I remember back in the day when I used to I'm reminiscing back in school. Then the guy brings out iPhone 12, just like, ta-ta. Really? I'm like, what, bro? You're like 12 years old. Like, iPhone 12.
My sisters, my baby brother, 10 years old, they got phones.
Yeah.
And they need it because every kid in their class has one.
You feel like you have
and
to,
they're socially exercised if they don't have it. They need to have it. They're excluded otherwise. So then what happens is that these kids are on it much earlier as well.
Yeah.
Fuck
yeah.
Which it just shows, it's just crazy. And we can't, as we know, we can't employ the same solutions China has.
Right.
So they've won it. They've won that system.
Yeah, China have already won.
They've already won that. Russia has already won in that case. They really like played this extremely well.
But the thing is, for example, right now, if you go on Twitter, you even get like spam everywhere. Like I recently just been messing around with Twitter, and it's just spam everywhere, 24/7, just account spamming 24/7 on any post. On Joe Rogan post something, Jordan P post something. It's just spammers at the bottom 24/7.
Yeah.
And even like the CCP bots, they just have CCP bots spamming everywhere. Even on YouTube, everywhere. So
it's crazy.
Like, so not only is it just like how social media fucks you up like on the individual basis, but then there are also like massive forces from both government and market forces that are trying to fuck you up at the same time,
taking advantage of it.
It's just massive fuckery.
Yeah, it really is. It really, like, my attention span has directly been affected by social media.
But it influences like all the way to the, like, you know, the political scale, where, you know, it actually changes who gets voted, like how people vote.
Right.
Skews people towards certain votes and stuff like that.
Exactly.
It's crazy, man.
So that's another thing I wanted to touch on. So in China, what they're doing on purpose is that they know when you now polarized the voter base on the Christian forums, you've been spamming anti-Islamic stuff for ages. Why? Because you know that's going to polarize that community, and they're going to put them on two sides. This is the point. They want to polarize them against the Muslims, everyone polarized against each other. What happens? Now your voter base are polarized individuals entirely. Yeah. So what happens? Who's getting elected? Polarized individuals. Those people who are on the fringes are going to start. Moderates are going to be less and less likely to be elected. And what's that going to cause? When you have two sides of the coin, both of them polarized, infighting. Can you make changes to any regulations while you're fighting? No. Played like a fiddle. Like, they are so